thinking pyramid. I'm thinking pyramid conspiracy. Like a Joe Rogan video? Maybe? Oh, Joe Bart reacted to it. Howard, let's see how the pyramids actually built.
Is a problem.
Alright.
Need to get
Got
back on the road?
couple ads. For those wondering, it's a Sour Patch ad. Alright.
This is Khufu, a pharaoh of ancient Egypt. He's king of the wealthiest nation on the planet, and he's a god. He's going to live forever, and he needs somewhere to live out his immortality, a home that will last.
Oh, he's talking about like
It will need to be incredibly
in the
secure
eyes
to
of
house
the
all of his riches,
Egyptians.
and it should also look amazing. His father Sneferu, also a god, is buried here.
They all end in
He's
like
the pharaoh
ooh
who taught
names.
Egypt how to build its pyramids, but the lines on his aren't quite perfect. Something went wrong. Khufu can do better. He can bring even more glory to
Like,
Egypt.
what is that, bro?
The nation is
How?
still mourning Sneferu's death. Khufu wants to lift the people up by drawing them into the most incredible project humanity has ever attempted. And then surely they'll love him, and later remember him. More than his dad. A project as grand and ambitious
There we go.
as the Great Pyramid can
Sorry
only
about
be
that.
pulled off by a very wealthy and very organized nation. The nation of Egypt is just that, thanks in large part to the Nile. Every year, the Nile overflows and fertilizes the land with rich topsoil. This gives ancient Egypt the ability to grow excess crops to keep its production well fed, and to sustain a standing army. The army regularly goes out and terrorizes Egypt's neighbors, plundering their wealth to bring home for the pharaoh. So Khufu has all the money he needs to build something very, very extra. But money isn't everything. Khufu also needs the smartest architect to design a building that will set him up for eternity. There's only one man for the job, Khufu's half-brother, Hemiunu. He was born for the role, a once-in-a-generation genius.
Alright, I'm not a fan of
The
this
design
video.
for his pyramid won't just follow in his father's footsteps, it will surpass it in every way. He envisions a pyramid far grander, more complex,
What is
and more
this?
secure than anything built before.
Understand? Yeah, let's go to like
A
the
true
theory.
quantum leap.
I'm not trying to learn the
Imagine you
history.
and some coworkers have to hoist a block as heavy as a double-decker bus, 130
Yeah, what's that, like
meters into the
8
air.
tons?
The only tools your boss gives you are
Two-
some rope,
4
some
tons?
wood, and some rubble. If you've got something
And there's
heavy,
8 of you.
you've got to move somewhere high. The simplest, most straightforward way
So,
is
like,
to just drag it up a ramp. You tie it with some
3/4 of
rope
a ton
to help
per
come as many
person?
people as can fit
No,
on the
you're
ramp.
not carrying a
leave it up
rope up.
together.
And how did they even get that
As the
platform to like
pyramid
carry
grows,
it?
The ramp would be raised and extended to accommodate the increasing height. Easy. No crazy advanced machinery necessary.
There's no
Most
way that's not
Egyptologists
that's
have
there's no way
traditionally
that's
supported the
stable.
external ramp theory. It continues to be the go-to explanation for how the builders pulled it off. And there's loads of archaeological evidence that confirms ancient Egyptians used big ramps for construction all the time. But there's no consensus on the size, shape, and incline of such a ramp. That's because after a certain height, the external ramp theory starts to fall apart. To move a 2-ton block up a slope, you need a team of about 12 workers. And as the pyramid starts to grow, your ramp either needs to become steeper or longer to reach the top. You're going to want that incline to be as gentle as possible, otherwise the job is
So
too
it'd have to be
intense,
like
and workers
18
will start
miles
dropping
long.
like flies. The remains of the workers suggest most were in decent but not spectacular health. These were everyday people, not super elite athletes. Many died before 40 due to the incredibly hard work. Engineers calculate that 8% is the steepest incline for average workers to complete their task. In consequence, the ramp has to become longer. To build a ramp to the full 147-meter height of the pyramid at a gentle enough incline, this ramp would need to be very, very long, like way more than a kilometer. It'd require a few million tons of material,
How much is a
up to
kilometer
3
in
times as much volume as the entire pyramid.
a mile? Like
Remains of such an enormous ramp haven't been found,
like
and it would
is
take
like equal
thousands
to
of
1?
workers decades just to build it. decades Khufu doesn't have to spare.
I think it's like 200 feet more than a mile.
There is a way to keep the ramp shorter. You could build a corkscrew ramp that spirals around the sides, like a road winding up a mountain.
Yeah, but like this
Every time
wouldn't
the pyramid
work.
grows, the ramp grows with it, and eventually just becomes part of the pyramid itself. That would be a pretty ingenious way to save up on space and material, and it would explain why we haven't found any.
How did they get rid of this after? They just knock it down? Because there's no way, dude. This is not how they did it. How they did it was they used aliens.
Remains of a ramp.
Or aliens built them.
But it comes with a whole new set of problems. The pyramid's triangular faces need to be accurately maintained at precisely 51.9 degrees from the bottom to the top. Surveyors need to measure the edges constantly to ensure there's no deviation. If you're off by even a few centimeters at the bottom, the top could be off by several meters. Since the spiral ramp blocks your sight, it's almost impossible to ensure that all the lines of the pyramid are actually straight, which would leave you with a crooked pyramid at the end.
Look, some of you have probably seen this photo, but look. Pyramid pillar earth theory. Where's the picture? Here it is. This like famous picture. This is what it is. I feel kind of stupid, but like I feel like this is what it is. Cuz like there's no way that they
And as we know, the Great Pyramid is in fact not
were able to
crooked.
build this.
This brings us to theory number 2. It's the late
The
90s.
internal
A
ramp.
French engineer, Henri Audin, is watching a documentary about the pyramids. It explains the pyramid construction with the external ramp theory, but Henri is skeptical. To his engineering mind, it just doesn't make sense. He calls up his architect's son, Jean-Pierre Audin, and asks his opinion. Jean-Pierre is intrigued. Without knowing much about ancient Egypt at all, or even visiting the pyramid, he starts puzzling over other ways the blocks could have been lifted. He labors over it obsessively for years, until he's finally ready to share it with Egyptologists. Most of them ignore him. He's an outsider, and it's a field notorious for gatekeeping.
French guy who knows nothing because there is no evidence.
But his theory has since gained traction, because Audin has put himself into the shoes of Emeunu, thinking through every last detail. His theory could even explain how the heaviest granite beams might have been moved without needing to be hauled by 600 workers.
Oh my god. Honestly, this seems pretty interesting. Let's let you guys.
Here's a concise version.
No, it's already over. Okay.
Emeunu does use an external ramp for the first part of the pyramid, up to around 60 meters. But he doesn't just build a basic ramp made of rubble. No, his ramp is made of limestone. The limestone blocks that will later compose the upper layers of the pyramid. That would explain why we haven't found any remains of a ramp around the pyramid. They're right there, in front of us. The short external ramp is used to build the widest, lower levels of the pyramid. It's also used to haul the heavy granite beams that compose the king's chamber. But hundreds of workers hauling a 50-ton block in a small space is logistically challenging. So Audin believes Emeunu used the long 46-meter corridor, the Grand Gallery, as an ingenious counterweight system.
Oh.
It would have been built opposite the external ramp, and its size and slope would be leveraged with counterweights that would assist workers in getting the granite up to the king's chamber. The Grand Gallery is a weird space in the Great Pyramid. It has details that puzzled archaeologists for a long time, like why it's so tall, so narrow, and why it has stone benches running along the inside. Audin believes the Grand Gallery helps move impossibly heavy stones by functioning like a railroad track. The stone benches are actually the rails for carts on wooden rollers. Remember, no wheels. Essentially, a huge granite block at the bottom of the external ramp would be attached with a rope to a trolley car loaded up with heavy blocks at the top of the Grand Gallery. When the trolley cars rolled down the Grand Gallery, the heavy granite block would be pulled up the ramp. There's even evidence of scuffing from the repeated impact of something heavy in the Grand Gallery. So it's a plausible explanation of what this unique corridor was used for. Once the heavy granite beams are in place, the external ramp has served its purpose. Now, the pyramid is too tall for it to be practical, so the builders switch things up. They dismantle the external ramp and use its blocks to start building the rest of the pyramid from the inside out, with an internal ramp, kind of like the driveway spiraling up inside a parking garage. This second ramp would have been built from the bottom up, with an incline of about 7%. It would go straight up until it hits one of the pyramid sides, where it would make a sharp left continue up another side at the same incline. The ramp continues zigzagging up the pyramid, with the flights of the ramp getting shorter as the pyramid narrows. From the bottom to the top, the internal ramp is over.
Yeah, but like, dude, you gotta think about what's the average temperature in Egypt? Like peak, it's probably the same temperature all the time, like averaging 95 degrees, and there's no AC. How would you survive doing hard manual labor pulling 8-ton rocks consistently all day every day in an enclosed space like this? Probably about 110 degrees in there, just sweating and sweating, and you have to bring this probably 100 feet up, 130 feet up on this incline constantly, just pulling and pulling. All your workers would die from exhaustion. And it's Egypt. You're in a desert. You wouldn't have the water to like feed your soul, like feed your workers energy. It's impossible.
Kilometer long. Moving heavy blocks up an incline is manageable, especially if you're using a sled over smooth limestone.
No, it's not.
But each time the ramp turns a corner, the workers have the enormously difficult task of pivoting the heavy stones. Odon calculates the ramp had to be less than 3 meters wide, and the workers would have needed somewhere to stand to turn the block. So he proposes that at the end of each flight of the ramp, there must have been a big space left open for the workers to turn the block, possibly with the help of wooden levers or cranes. The empty spaces would also be a nice place for the workers to catch their breath. And there's actually evidence of one of these spaces. There's a previously unexplained notch that corresponds to Odon's predictions for what the spaces would look like, about 83 meters up the pyramid. Odon's theories about the Grand Gallery
Yeah,
and the internal
83
ramp
meters.
offer
That's like
viable solutions to
240
two of the pyramid's
feet.
biggest mysteries: how 2-ton blocks were lifted so high, and how 50-ton beams were moved without the space for the hundreds of workers needed to haul them. But if he's right, the ramp's design would have been highly complex. Its path would have to be designed with great care to avoid intersecting with any passageways or chambers within the pyramid. Critics of his theory are either unconvinced that its construction is supported by archaeological evidence, or wave off the internal ramp as over.
Did they fill in? Did they fill in like the corridors, or they just leave it? Because we have the technology to scan it, like 3D scan it, and then off of like waves and stuff, be able to see what's inside. They did it with another pyramid. Why don't they just do it with this one? And that theory will be instantly collapsed.
Complicated. Many suggest the external ramp theory is likelier because it's simpler, but ancient Egyptian workmanship exhibits extraordinarily high levels of precision in so many aspects. Why not also apply this ability to a highly sophisticated ramp design? And also, why not entertain an even more sophisticated theory for how they built the pyramids? In 2024, a flurry of newspaper articles announced that the mystery of the pyramids was finally solved, thanks to brand new archaeological evidence. As it turns out, the Nile might just be the key to the mystery of how the pyramids were built. Nowadays, the Giza Plateau lies in an arid strip of the Sahara Desert, kilometers away from the lush banks of the Nile. But during the time that the pyramids were built, the landscape may have looked very different. A 2024 study combined radar satellite imagery with deep soil coring techniques. This way it identified what appears to be a long-lost branch of the Nile flowing alongside the majority of the pyramids. The pyramid builders probably used this branch to move heavy stones straight to the pyramid base, instead of dragging them all the way from distant quarries. More than plausible that the builders used the Niles to transport the blocks
I think after
horizontally.
this we're gonna switch over to Siege.
But what about vertically?
I've said what I need to say. Oh my
Grammarly,
god.
When you're working on yet another cover letter for that internship, and it starts to sound a little not like you, Grammarly can help.
Alright.
Another
4
peer-reviewed
minutes
study from
left on this
2024
video.
offers a fascinating theory. It proposes a radical and controversial idea. The ancient Egyptians might have used hydraulic power
No.
to raise heavy stones.
Okay,
In
now
other
it's
words,
now it's just
a
silly,
water-powered
dude.
elevator. The idea of such an elevator is not new, but for a long time, credentialed Egyptologists considered such theories fringe and unscientific, just speculations cooked up by pyramidians. They might sound cool, but there was zero evidence to actually support them.
Yeah.
Until, perhaps, Now,
No,
the
bro.
researchers, including hydrologists, mechanical engineers, and geographers, found evidence that the earliest Egyptian pyramid could have been built using a floating wooden elevator capable of raising heavy stones with far less human labor. The water elevator would have worked something like this. Rainfall and floodwater would be collected into a nearby structure that functions as a dam. A system of underground conduits guides that water into a shaft running from underneath the pyramid up through its central axis, kind of like a volcano. This internal shaft is where all the upward movement is generated. Within the shaft, floating on the water's surface, is a heavy wooden platform, which workers would load up with heavy stones from the ground level. Then they'd open and close valves near the bottom of the shaft, which would feed in or drain out the water.
They would drown.
Manipulating the water levels in this way would raise and lower the wooden platform like an elevator. It could raise the platform to heights of at least 17 meters.
Yo, what
Then
is
workers
this?
would unload the stones
What are you
and construct the
talking
pyramid
about,
from the
bro?
inside out. The study's lead author claims his theories could also help explain why later ones aren't as large as the Great Pyramid. As the climate dried out of the region over time, builders couldn't have captured enough water for a hydraulic lift system.
Yeah,
They'd have to rely on human strength to lift heavy stones. So
that
does
theory
this
is
theory
stupid.
hold water?
No.
Experts
Oh yeah, we're
amongst
switching over to Siege, bro. This just getting silly. Bro, using water. Or do we play Rust? No, let's play Siege. Yeah, we're playing Siege.